All right, welcome to the episode where I hope we're going to finally start preparing our forces for defense. The Protectorate have launched their first warships now, the Hanoi class Escort. This thing still uses pretty basic primitive technology, I suspect because the Protectorate, unlike the Servants, don't get a lot of technology given to them by their friends and don't get a bunch of resources given to them by their friends. So this is our classic early game Nerva, Crate, Point Defense Laser, Interdictor. Not a threat. In fact, the more of these they build, the better as far as I'm concerned. We're going to be able to do better. Not that we had at the moment. At the moment, this is more powerful than every warship I have launched. I've got a couple in construction, but nothing launched. And the ones I'm launching are just really for the purpose of distracting the aliens as opposed to actually doing anything. So there we are. The Protectorate is now in space. The bastards. Well, the servants fired Birat after we turned him, which is a good thing in a sense because he was quite well leveled up and capable, but a downside in the sense that we now need to find another servant to turn. When we start opening fire on them, I want both of my conversion slots to be turned servant counselors so that we can efficiently murder the others. We have eyes on a servant in India. She's likely the next target. How many times do I need to teach you this lesson, old man? We have another alien assault carrier, again deploying to Brazil. The United States is still allied with Brazil from our previous altercation, so this time the now tech level 6.1 US military is going to deploy and meet them at the landing grounds yet again. Note that deployment times shorten as tech level improves, so you get quicker and quicker at getting anywhere in the globe in 30 days as your tech level goes up, which along with the combat power is a very important reason to tech up. If you're using atomic age armies, you're probably not going to make it there on time. If you're using invasion age armies, you almost certainly will. It would have been nice, of course, if these robotics age Japanese armies belonging to the Academy would be involved. The Academy has been ruthlessly militarizing Japan for some time now, with 100% of government spending directed towards military modernization, and yet they still have some of their territory occupied by the EU. This long running Cold War between the EU, which has the numbers but not the navally deployable numbers, and doesn't have the tech advantage against Japan that has the tech advantage and the home field advantage, has been going for ages, and I really wish they'd chill out and focus on the true enemy. But what are the odds of that happening? In any case, bring it on, Xenos. We've done this before. And with a new round of manufacturing on Mars, I believe we are now cash positive. That's not the base that just completed, it is this one. So this base here, this is running, it's got a good reserve of power to the point where it could almost do without one of its generators, but not quite. We can certainly replace this research campus and level up this colony point eventually. It's got 2 battle stations, a command center to take the edge off its overall MC upkeep. Considering it is a mine, it's pretty expensive. And then it's got a series of foundries and manufacturing complexes, which collectively mean the thing makes money. I do notice... No, it does have an agriculture complex. Good, okay. What's the total crew? 2,435. I feel like this thing could actually do with a second agricultural complex, but I haven't done the math on that, in order to increase the... because it's getting a negative volatile income. Now, it is getting a negative volatile income, which suggests to me that we probably could do with more agriculture on site, but I'm not sure that's an immediate priority because it's going to turn these manufacturing complexes from making money to building locations. So I'm going to save that for when it's time to upgrade the mine. We'll do the mine and this location at the same time. We'll go mine upgrade, maybe more agriculture. That should increase our volatiles income while at the same time just the proceeds of this mine. This mine is currently producing water and volatiles, and yet we're negative, which means we need another agricultural facility here. So we'll do that upgrade at the right time and go from there. But fantastic. After bleeding, I think we bled our way through like 70,000, 80,000 cash. We're now finally cash positive once more. So much to my chagrin, I have discovered I cannot turn 2 servants at once, which is annoying. I would have liked to, it would have given me some redundancy, so instead I'm going to have to hunt for a Protectorate loser in order to compromise them. But I'm also going to send some counselors to ground right now. I'm tracking a Xenoform until it manages to find its way out of servant territory, and as such doesn't get the defensive points for friendly local control points. Once that happens, we'll probably take it out, but as you know, we're lying low for just that little bit longer. We do now have the pulse drive. The pulse drive itself is available. So if we look at a battleship and we look at the power plant, we now have a Z-Pinch level 2 reactor and this thing, the Triton pulse drive, available, which yields, even with relatively limited amounts of propellant, a decent cruise acceleration, a decent combat acceleration for considering the size of the ship. And most importantly, we can get like much better delta V out of this thing. Now, we're going to be able to do better. We're going to be able to upgrade the drive, we're going to be able to upgrade the reactor, and battleships aren't the most, shall we say, mobile at the best of times. We slap this thing on our smaller ships, and all of a sudden you've got combat acceleration of a G, cruise acceleration of 102 milli-Gs, and a cruise delta V of 35 kps, at least before you put hardpoints on it. So this is a big increase in terms of range when you compare it to acceleration. We can do better. We can move on to things like torches and whatnot. But for the moment, this is a decent enough upgrade for our first generation of warships. And here we've started to actually take the exotic materials, and instead of just trying to copy alien application by like using them as weapons and armor, we've started to talk about splicing them with human technology in a real way. There is a hint here that eventually this might lead to research that could potentially allow humanity to go beyond the bounds of the solar system. Admittedly, that's what Exodus is already trying to do, albeit without these materials. But for now, it's all about the military benefits, and we're going to unlock a series of technologies that hybridize human and alien tech. At least eventually. It's still 2035, but I'm working on it. I've got 14.2k science output. I'm doing okay. Because it doesn't cost too much hate, I'm just going to nuke the objective technology for the Protectorate that allows them to transfer technology to the alien nation. No. If the servants aren't allowed to do it, the initiative stole our reactor technology. If the initiative isn't allowed to do it, then neither is the Protectorate. So I'm going to nuke this all the way back to 0. Heaven help me. I'm already having enough trouble watching and suppressing the damn servants while we wait to have the resources in orbit to solve the servant problem once and for all. I'm not going to let the Protectorate develop their mission technology while waiting for it, because them I would not be able to suppress. Not with all of China under their control. That would be hellish. The servants are at least held back by the fact that they're occupying a bunch of relatively weak nations. The Protectorate are dug in China. They're dug in behind a wall of armies, information age now, 10 nuclear barrages, a level 16 navy, and despite the problems that the country is having, which has limited its science output, it's still economically powerful and incredibly militarily threatening. So no, I don't want them to transfer this to the aliens. No. Once again, you alien bastards, welcome to the jungle. They're going to bounce off the US military like nothing. This is a tennis ball off a concrete wall. The tech level difference is just not large enough, considering they are both outnumbered and they're spawning at 50% strength. Plus we get the defending rough terrain bonus. This is a slaughter. You're going to have to land somewhere else. The problem is they don't have that many landing sites that are beyond our reach. If they land in a servant country, I'm probably just going to declare war on it, as long as it's anything without a nuclear weapon. And if it does have a nuclear weapon, like Iran, I'm probably going to throw Max in there along with all of my counselors at once in order to stage a coup ahead of our arrival. I think we can hold them off, and it won't have to be for that much longer in the grand scheme of things. I'll also note that I am now plus 4k active on cash. It's eating up a lot of my metals and nobles. My income has fallen dramatically, but I can always turn those nanofactories off if needed. I do have plans in order to use my boost to generate more cash in Earth orbit or Mercury orbit, but for the moment, the nanofactories have stabilized the situation. Our efforts to militarize and clean the Earth at the same time proceed apace. We've increased the global fusion level again. We've reduced the amount of carbon dioxide we're producing yet again by producing deuterium helium-3 fusion. This is great. It also gives us a Hans Castillo quote. This is not a war over resources or politics. This is a war to determine the future of humanity. It is imperative that we show them, show anyone, what it really means to fight us. And that's meant to be Hans Castillo launching a spacecraft. I like it how, as the tech tree goes on, the quotes sort of assume the story has progressed. This is again something out of Alpha Centauri. It tells a story of the way the game progresses, semi in canon, without directly contradicting what's happening in your game, and develops the characters. The Resistance has lots of space resources, but not enough technology or mission control to make it work. We have a lot of technology, but we'll be able to spend every single iota of resource that I have saved up here. So we're going to buy a good chunk of additional resources to buffer from the Resistance. In particular, this 6,000 normal metal is going to be really useful considering how much that stuff is being currently eaten up by my Habs. I'm also going to go through their orgs and see if they've got any mining organizations, grab them too. But this sort of relationship, you can see the Resistance is currently pleased with me. We fought our way all the way back to Tolerance, and it is great. They're not particularly powerful, they've only got a couple of warships, but if we feed them enough technology, and eventually I want to give them some stations with mission control stations on them to prompt them to expand more rapidly. In fact, I may even donate them a little bit of water, because that's what they're short of. Here, have 1,000 water. We should start to see more of them in space, and if we give them all the weapons and technology they need, well, they might even build some useful ships. We have the first half of our weapon combination. We're getting very close. Ultraviolet lasers. I had to just load back into the game, so I'm coming back. What was I going to do next? Sorry. It's probably a second for you, but it's an hour or two for me. Okay. As much as all this is nice, like let's save the Earth with all this clean energy stuff, I feel instead we've got to move towards what we need. I think, let me go into what I need for my engines. My next stage, my engine, which is moving on to higher tier power generation and torch engines. The other thing I might want is trans-interface warfare, which allows us to build defenses on planet Earth to defend against bombardment. Because that's the one thing we're not going to have an initial defense against. We're not going to be able to protect ourselves from being bombarded from space. We're just defending our stations and our colonies. So maybe trans-interface warfare is an option. I'll check into that. The other one is Terawatt fusion reactors, which leads to all the truly glorious fusion engines. 95,000 research, but maybe that's the way we have to go. And we have phased array lasers. Combined with our ultraviolet lasers, we will get UV phasers. Mr. Castillo is a big fan of these sort of weapons technologies. The simple truth is that any spaceship is a large metal balloon filled with air. Once pierced, it has lost all of its wonder. Hans Castillo, Fundamentals of Orbital Warfare, which I have to imagine is similar to, the Spartan Battle Manual from Alpha Centauri. I can't help but compare these quotes. So this is the pinnacle of combat laser technology. Phased array lasers, quickly christened phasers by our engineers. Second generation arc lasers, improved AI guided mirror systems to attain extreme ranges that have previously eluded our energy weapons. The AI for these mirror systems has been trained on millions of hours of ship combat data to enable it to predict enemy ship maneuvers based on even the smallest adjustment in course. These predictions, together with an ultra-fast response time of mere nanoseconds, allow the AI to perform high-precision shots at moving targets, even at extreme distances. This is the zenith of laser weapons. Little, if anything, will be able to stand against it. So we will now get the top-tier laser weapons. There is technology past this, but it's not lasers anymore past then. Once you've gone visible combat, ultraviolet, phased array lasers, you're basically into, well, you could use antimatter weapons or another tree. It's kind of the end of the laser tree. There is nowhere to go past here. So the aliens will go from seeing us to deploying basic Copperhead style missiles in 2030 to hopefully end-game laser weapons in 2036. This is what biding your time and going all out on science can get you. With this in train, I'm almost ready to start building up all of those facilities. In fact, now might even be the time. All we want is for the weapon systems to be finished, the research for the actual laser batteries themselves, and we'll need to do 4. The heavy, the medium, the light, and the point defense UV phases. We'll need them to complete by the time the aliens go nutso, because they'll automatically upgrade all of our defenses. Then it's time to do ships and additional base stations. But I think this is a good thing. A very good thing that gets us closer to our goal. I'm going to pick up next generation aerospace, get us closer to trans interface warfare, because that will also be handy. and then I'm going to work on terawatt fusion reactors. So let's just pick up next generation aerospace. I'm also doing predictive genetics because I want to get to the technologies that allow my counselors to live longer, because I don't want any of them to die of old age. Not at this point. I want them to be able to see it through to the end. I've started rebalancing technology research towards getting all three of the UV phaser battery technologies. These are our primary weapon systems. I want them and I need them. If we add the point defense, I'm not sure if there is a point defense technology for these, I'll check. But all three categories of laser batteries plus the point defense, we're sort of good to go. We'd also like the big cannons that fit on the front of our capital ships, but they're less important than these because these are the ones that fit on our defense arrays, and thus these are the ones that are going to protect us from the evil Xenos. If we can get surface defenses and a number of bases up. Now, these are completing in May to June or July next year, which means probably at around March or April, it's time to start constructing. We're almost there. And with trans-interface warfare in research as well, at around April, we'll be able to start defending our surface regions from alien bombardment. Truly, the Xenos don't know what they're missing. They've destroyed our helpless stations, they've continued to harass us, they've enthralled points, they've terrorized our population, but their time is coming. Alright, I think it's time for the first part of the build-up phase. So here is essentially what is going to happen. We're not going to worry about ships at all, not for the initial stage. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around to all of the level 1 HABs that I still want to retain. There are a large number of them, and I'm going to push this number as high as 190 by basically going to each and every one of them, turning off mines if necessary in order to allow the upgrades, and upgrading them to at least settlement cores. This will enable them to have some defense against attack. Once that's complete, we can build out the rest of their base and be positioned. We're not going to get greedy, we're not going to upgrade to level 3, we're not going to upgrade the mines or anything like that, we're just going to get the defenses and whatever other Tech 2 buildings we want in place to get the maximum out of these units, probably in the form of science in the meantime, but mostly the focus is on making them defensible. I'm going to have to turn off some stuff in order to make that possible, but as long as I don't push that number over 190, I don't think I'm going to have instantly frenzied aliens, and if I do, I'll shut some more things down, or I'll abandon a base, or I'll just let them destroy something in order to make it happen. I still have, I think, the last 2 surviving distraction stations in Earth orbit. They can always be shut down if needed. They will also be the first to go if I do cross the threshold and the aliens go a bit nutso. So, I'm going to do a whole bunch of upgrading of all these locations that I want to keep. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to turn some stuff off because you can see I'm already at 185, 187. Doing okay. Alright, we're probably going to want this asteroid upgraded. Asteroids are particularly hard to defend. This has got a good nobles. Some of these have got good nobles income. You can see some. I've turned some mines off already. This asteroid, great incomes. I'm going to have to go back to Mercury now. That's an outpost mining complex that can be turned off. Anyway, you can see the process that I'm doing. I'm going to push it to the absolute limit in terms of upgrades. I'm going to get defenses in place and then hope the phaser technologies arrive on schedule. Once they do, upgrades across the board, upgrades to mines, everything is going to turn back on. The shipyards are going to go, well, the shipyards may not go live, but certainly the stations will go live. But we're getting ready to the point, to reach the point where humanity reveals itself truly to the aliens as something that intends to fight back rather than just, thrash around a little bit in the net. We do intend to fight. Ooh, 1,000 combat power already from our defense array. What's it mounting? Surface to orbit ultraviolet phaser cannons. Now that's something I can get behind. That means I don't actually have to research. Oh, of course, it's a surface defense. And as a surface defense, it gets those ultraviolet phase cannons straight away. So it's just our orbitals, I think, that will require special care and attention. These level 2 stations, by the way, that we are keeping, they're going to need to get modules swapped out with defense arrays at the last moment, but I'm keeping them as productive as possible until the defense modules start going in. I think that makes sense. Let me just check something that has a layered defense array or a battle station. Yeah, so the orbital ones are still using green arc laser batteries. These ones need our upgraded ship weapons technology in order to be active. They don't count as surface defenses. Does this one have a shortage of power? It does. It cannot power its command center. Well, that's somewhat inconvenient. What I need to do in order to make that fixed is change one of these solars for a fusion reactor. That'll power down these temporarily, but then this will power on and life will be good. These social science institutes can probably eventually be replaced by even more command centers, but like I said, no reason to rush things. We're at 237 potential mission control. That's a good number for an initial upgrade spree, as long as we build a lot more MC in that initial spree. The money is there to do it. The resource income needs to be as well, and that means mine upgrades. It's exciting. We've been lying low for like 3 or 4 episodes now, very deliberately, as opposed to the early stages where we were sort of finding the servants, sort of not. We've been lying low, developing our technology. We're getting ready to reveal ourselves. I've had to darken so much of my mining infrastructure to stay at 190, which I think 190 is like the absolute limit for retaliation. So anything I do now, anything I do will send the aliens completely freaking haywire. So for the next couple of months at least, we're going to have to just stay our blades. No bombing the Protectorate, no bombing the servants, nothing. We stay in our lane, very, very quiet, hoping that the reduced electronic intelligence and signature we get from shutting down a lot of our mines hides the fact that we're upgrading a lot of our base facilities. Then we're going to get them building their defenses, and then, middle of the year, the trap should be ready to be sprung. These bases have started becoming online, which means it's time to start putting defenses, power generators, and all the extra stuff on them. The basic structure I'm going to go with here is to have research campuses, and we'll need another fusion reactor array. Go there. Research complex. Research complex, that's an information science lab. Let's see if we can fit. No, we can't. That was not a power generator, so let's go fusion reactor there. Fantastic. The designs are not exact. Some are going to have op centers just to give us a little bit of an initial extra boost. Some are going to be holding science labs, which is probably the most common configuration that I'm going with. We'll go there. Anyway, this is the construction that I'm doing at the moment. Probably too many farms on that one, but that's okay. I just want a little bit of variety between them, so the aliens don't assume we have the same design on all of them. That's not a thing, I believe, but I wish it was. Alright, that looks good. Going to continue. Anyway, I'm going to complete this process with all these new ones that are coming online. I am at 188 mission control, which is scary but not critical. I am expecting retaliations if I'd so much as sneeze, but you know, it is what it is. Alright, I don't like it, but there is an alien base that's popped up in Bolivia, and it will cause problems, but Max has to destroy it, otherwise the alien administration may be founded right when we are on the cusp of sticking our heads out, which I don't want. So Max is going in to do his thing. We'll lose some of our infrastructure right on the cusp of being defended, but it is what it is. Go for it, Max. Someone quite rightly pointed out in the comments that when I first hired Max, I was like, I'll replace him with someone better later. Right now, the man is a Terminator. I am sorry. He has made a critical contribution to humanity first. I could not ask for a better commando destroy person thing. There we are. Alien asset destroyed.
Here's what we have found.
And now I brace for what comes next. Now there's a piece of research that Max loves. Government network analysis plus 3 to coup missions. Man, I'm going to take that, even if we're going into the space combat phase of the game any minute now. Well, I think I want government network analysis too, because Max is currently doing public opinion boosting missions in the United States as I ask him to behave and not cause any hate. If I want him to forgive me, I'm going to need him to let him do some more coups, and government network analysis will help him do that well. Alright, the first of our phaser batteries has arrived. This thing is awesome. Has Guardian mode, can fire at 700 kilometers, fires every 10 seconds, does 7.5 damage, reduces armor. Look, armor is effective at 500 kilometers, but at 200 kilometers, armor is down to 20% effective. It can bombard anywhere that doesn't have an atmosphere. This is awesome. I've come back to the save after a bit, and all of a sudden I am thrilled. Now I could pick up an alternative drive, the reflex drive, which is a bit more of a combat. Oh no, there are some combat engines here. But what I really want, let's go cost, is I want to see if any of the. Here we are. Heavy UV phaser cannon. Uses 3 nose hardpoints. This thing fires at 950 kilometers and does 15 damage. It's a nice punchy weapon. Until we go down and get ballistics, something like this will give our ships just that little bit more punch. Trans interface should be done in July. I'm going to go now to my remaining tier 2 stations and bases around the world and start putting the defense modules on them, which officially starts the 90-day countdown until the big blowout build commences. The Resistance has started launching some more serious ships, just as we intended when we started pumping up their resource base a little bit. This is a interesting vessel. It's got a 480 centimeter laser cannon on the front, riverjack missiles, particle beam point defenses, and some Rattler missiles, as well as carrying a spare magazine for its missiles. 4 marine assault units. It's got a 6 power advanced pulsar drive, which should be very familiar to us, and it's using 16 forward adamantane armor, 4 flank adamantane armor. An interesting cruiser design, perhaps not the deadliest thing ever produced, but certainly a huge jump up from the crate missile carrying stuff that we've seen so far. This one's actually operating in low Mars orbit. Well, the alien problem-causing fleet is back in low orbit. Originally, I'd run down the threat level enough clearly for it to go home, but it's back with a pair of motherships and a whole bunch of escorting vessels. These things can probably take on our stations, even if they do have battle stations, but it'll take losses doing so. So, I'm hoping that if I can time the assault on this alien base correctly, we shouldn't lose too much, but the time is clearly here, right? We're about somewhere between 30 and 45 days out from finishing defenses on the last of the facilities we want to preserve. We're completing the weapon systems that make those stations dangerous in the coming weeks. We can't hide anymore. And as if to confirm understanding, the last alien bait stations, I think there are 4 of them at this stage. One of them has now gone silent, and I suspect the rest will be destroyed in short order, especially if we assault that base. At that point, there are no longer any distractions left. They'll have to come for our armed stations. We'll see if they do. Well, I'll be frank, I'm getting fairly sick of retaliation by now. I'm really keen to stretch out. I had to step away from the game for a minute, mostly because keeping up with the pace of alien retribution is now driving me a little bit bonkers. But on the other hand, we now have trans-interface warfare, which means we can build space defenses. Now, 50 investment points gives a region space defenses. That's pretty expensive, but I think it's worth investing in. So space defenses, I believe, prevent alien landings and nuclear strikes on the regions that they are located in and fire back at fleets conducting orbital bombardment. So, guess what? 100% of the UK's investment will go into orbital defences. Now, this will cause a little bit of economic shock in our countries, but I think they can survive it for a bit. 50 investment, so 5 months, will protect the core economic region in the south. The second one should protect the north, so the UK should be protected pretty quickly. If it gets bombarded before it's finished, then we can direct invest. The United States is going to take longer to protect, but has more points to go with it, so the question is, do I invest at all? Because it means taking my foot off the brake of Miltech. I'll think about that for a moment. India is a no-brainer. Now, it does have quite a few regions to protect, but it's kind of everything is fine in India at the moment. Like, there's nothing urgent elsewhere. I don't know why this is showing 258%. Okay. Alright. I'll click around that. That might be a display bug. I think that means 22.5? No, that doesn't make sense either. Weird. I think it means 25? Anyway. Weird. And as for the Eurasian Union, the Union is huge, and protecting it would be extremely difficult. So, I think I'm just going to do this for the moment. even if it means that all we do is we end up protecting Moscow to start with, it might be worth it. Getting our armies sheltered in those positions if they need to, it gives them a place to be. So we'll move these closer to Moscow. But the key is the UK will be able to protect itself. India will rush out a whole bunch of defences for India. And the United States, the United States, what we're going to do, 2 pips here, cut those pips, 33% investment, and then what we're going to do is cut back the economy and welfare to keep the military growing. 33% investment in space defences. I might increase this shortly if need be, but this will also eventually protect us from nuclear attack. It's expensive, but it is what it is. I'm also fortifying my stations. I'm trying to keep up with retaliations, but frankly, they are driving me a bit nuts. I'm back down below 190. It's a constant build race to keep up. I don't know what I'm doing to provoke them at this point. I think they're just accumulating hatred just in general because the servants hate my guts. It's hard to know. All I know is I really have to either shrink or pull the trigger soon. Those are my only 2 options, so it's going to be pulling the trigger. I just have to hold on just a bit longer for my defenses to finish and a couple of these surface defenses to populate, and then we're going to go. So Mr. Banerjee is a dickhead, and he has completed somehow. He has completed his objective mission despite the sabotage. I had to pull back on the sabotage, to be honest, because it was triggering ridiculous amounts of retaliation. So the Protectorate now has their mission in play, which is unfortunate. Neural engineering allows a new tier of cybernetic upgrades. So if we go to our counselors, Camia can now get a whole new generation of augmentations. +2 espionage, administration. No, we're still not going to install the loyalty monitor. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to augment everybody. Then I'm going to adjust their organizations accordingly. At least this means that we will be able to keep up with the growth of the Indian economy. And actually have CP limit. Now, yes, my councillors do look a little bit Borg-like at this point, but needs must. We've just had one faction declare that, what, they're going to sign a peace treaty with the aliens that are trying to enslave us with literal mind control powers. And they're going to do that by building a series of battle stations that keep humans trapped on Earth. They may even just hand stuff over to the aliens directly. We're not sure yet. Actually, no, I'm going to improve security still with Camia because she's always detected. Nero's fine. I would like one more security point here. Alright, so we're over CP cap again. That's handy. I'm going to do some juggling of some organizations and then I'll be back. I'm really annoyed that the Protectorate got their mission, but like I said, the alternative was just a hate spiral that I could not control. And we're getting close to the point where we start shooting at everyone anyway. So you know what? Maybe I do want to accelerate those space defenses. And while we put the finishing touches on our plan to finally go to war with the aliens, we're also trying to clean up the planet at the same time. I'm picking up clean energy, combined with civil fusion reactors, which is one of the advantages of going the fusion line. We're going to be able to eliminate the CO2 contribution of the economy focus. Not that we're doing much of that at the moment, but everyone else is. So we should be able to limit global warming going forward. India is working on space defenses. The United States similarly has dropped just about everything in order to go the space defenses route. Eurasia is just too big to practically defend with space defenses at the moment. So it might get targeted with bombardments. We might rush some if it starts to get targeted. But for the moment, I want to get this flawed democracy to continue rising. There's a lot of potential in this state. We will drop everything and do space defenses if we need to. For the moment, the UK is also halfway towards protecting the southern part of the Isles already, so we're in a pretty good place. Maybe I do need one over Moscow. Look, at the very least, I need them to not bombard Moscow. So we're going to temporarily stop everything else. Actually, you know what? We just have to do that. We're going to temporarily just going to slap up some space defenses, then go back to fixing the country. But for the moment, flawed democracy will have to do. It is what it is. Get some space defenses up, protect the centers of our, I suppose, our government, our industry, our civilization. India's got one, it's working on the second one. If we can do that, come October, we will declare our intentions to the world, and most importantly, that will allow me to start taking direct actions against the servants again without caring. And Lord, am I looking forward to that. Oh, look, they're building a facility. Great. Who's building a facility? Resolves 13 August. What a legend. Okay, we're going to have to blow that facility up soon before they turn it over to the alien administration, so that corresponds pretty well. Blowing up that facility will basically cause a whole series of retaliation, and frankly, I haven't rebuilt my distraction stations. I have enough I have mines shut down already. That's probably going to be the moment. I'm probably going to do that. All my defenses will finish. October's going to be the month. October will be the month. Maybe a bit late to research this technology. I'm building fusion engines, so I'm probably going to pass on the advanced chemical rockets. Just an idea. And I'm sure all the Americans watching will be relieved to know that if America is reduced to ashes from orbital bombardment, at least Washington will be safe thanks to its new array of surface-to-orbit laser weapons. You know, priorities. And here is one of the last pieces of the technological puzzle that we need. Terawatt fusion reactors. This will increase the fusion level by 1. It'll unlock Z-Pinch fusion reactor 3, and a whole bunch of interesting technology. This is critical on the road to our torch engines, the ultimate engines that we can possibly build. Alright, I know you all hate me for ending on a cliffhanger, but that's exactly what I'm about to do. In the next turn, the UK should finish its orbital defences over its core southern economic region, which we can hide all the armies in if necessary. The Eurasians should finish theirs over Moscow, which means we're in a pretty good position on land. In orbit, the last of the Earth stations should finish their last battle station positions and their supporting fusion reactor farms again this cycle. Battle station will be finished by 13 October. That's acceptable. So Max is going in. He's going to destroy this alien structure. Once he does, hate will spike. As soon as it does, I'm going to go around and build instantly about 40 or 50 additional MC worth of material. All the mines are going back on, all the ones that we've mothballed. All the facilities are being upgraded to T3 if necessary, so that they can be more productive and use T3 modules. I'm going to schedule a whole bunch of additional MC to be produced, and that will then support the shipyards and fleets that we will use to fight back. But first, we're going to rely on our static defenses to hold back the Hydra. The middle game is over. Well, this stage of the middle game is over. It depends where you decide that the middle game ends and the end game begins, but the fact is, the passive phase of the game, where we try and fend off invasions and the Hydra while not going too far over the hate limit, all that's over. We're going to war. We're going to ask them to come at us, and we're going to give back the best we can in return. I'm contacting other factions in order to give them gifts and make sure that we sort of put ourselves on the best possible terms with the Academy, with the Resistance, with Exodus, those that we would call friends, and then we are going to smash these servants so incredibly hard over the next couple of months. Well, initially, we're going to defend ourselves against the freaking Doom fleet that happens to be in orbit. That's the first threat that we face. I'm not sure where it is at the moment. I think it's Victor 70. No? Has the Major... Okay, this is fantastic. I hadn't noticed this had happened. We must have bled off enough heat. Is it Victor 80? Okay, so Victor 80 is heading back to Earth. What's paired with Victor? There it is. Victor 80 and Victor 101. This is the 9K fleet that will be back in orbit on 13 October. Exactly when our defenses finish. This is probably more than a match for any of our stations, but you know what? We should be able to at least thin the herd. If we lose everything in the orbit of Earth, well then they'll have to go to Mercury and Mars as well, and destroy those stations as well if they are to destroy our fleet building capacity. But the point is, there's no going back at this point, I don't think. Unless I see comments, unless I see comments saying that I should be more patient, I think it's now time to pull the trigger and start fighting. I want to be able to start shooting servants, and I want to be able to expand my economy beyond the 190 mission control that I'm already using, which is already putting the Hydra on basically a hair trigger full time. For the better part of a decade now, Humanity First has held its fire, stayed its hand. We've studied, consolidated, and we've hidden. But humans do not wish to live in fear forever, and as long as orbit is dominated by alien warships, we will never be safe. So, for the sake of the alliance, of the Eurasian Union, of India, of the United Kingdom and the United States, for the sake of all the humans on this planet, for the sake of our fathers, for the sake of our mothers and our children, next episode, we go to war.